Well, it's great to continue these sessions here at the India Global Forum as we continue to take a look at all aspects from the broader economy to what's been happening in technology to what's happening in the field of entrepreneurship. And that is where we're going to turn our attention to right now. Young entrepreneurs, what are they doing? What are the new innovative methods they're bringing to the entire business playbook in a sense? And also, what can be done to encourage them and set spaces and communities together to encourage them. And specifically, I'm quite interested in also figuring out how those communities can work from one country to the other, perhaps building linkages between Britain and India, for example, which is one of the things that India Global Forum is frankly all about. So it's great to have Janet Coyle with us, who's Managing Director, Grow London, working on all of these areas that I just spoke about. So it's great to have you with us. And Devika Wood, founder of I Am Arla, serial entrepreneur. It's your second company, right? I Am Arla. So I'm going to hear about both of them in just a couple of minutes. But why don't we just start by asking you, what is it that young entrepreneurs are doing these days, and how is it different to what other entrepreneurs are doing? How old were you when you set up your first company, by the way?
26.
Okay.
And I'm now 34. So I set it up when I was 26, back in 2016, and exited when I was 29, so 4 years later. It's moved on so significantly since I first founded it in Vida. Janet was actually a huge part of my kind of success in setting up communities that I was part of. But back then, there really wasn't much that we could access in terms of communities. Investment into female founders was very limited. The number of VCs that existed was very small. So there wasn't that much money to really access because everything was sort of just coming up. But there was a lot of angel money floating about because SEIS and EIS was really hot as a topic back in 2016. So I was really lucky in getting quite a lot of angel investment into our cap table. Things have progressed massively in terms of communities, access to amazing VCs, inclusive VCs, VCs that are really, really compelling around diversity and inclusion in terms of how many investors are on cap tables and boards are full of women. But we're still really far behind in terms of the number and percentage of funds going to women and women health solutions. So, yeah. So
women health solutions, young women at the age of, so you were at the age of 26 and you're out there trying to raise funds and saying, Vida was what, in elder care, right?
Elderly care technology platform, yeah. It was.
How much simpler was it from that point to when you're setting up I Am Arla, which is about women's mental health?
Yeah, I think in terms of my personal and professional experience has obviously grown. I've gone through the trials and tribulations of doing things horribly wrong and knowing what not to do. I've also fully integrated into amazing communities and been part of phenomenal initiatives like what Janet does with the London Mayor's Office and the Grow Partners, and that was super important in my life, and being around other successful female founders and inspirational mentors that guided me. So in terms of knowing what I'm doing, I know now what not to do. But in terms of accessing support and services, it feels so much easier now in terms of being able to do the things that I want to do, but also not just working within the UK economy, but actually going global and trying to connect with different countries and do bigger go-to-market strategies. But yeah, I mean, I'm finding it a lot more fun this time around, let's put it that way.
A lot more fun and less stress, perhaps.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because you've done it successfully, so you know it can be done.
Yeah, exactly. More confidence.
Right, and it's always good to have someone saying what a fantastic job you did before you get to speak. So that's wonderful. So tell us, how do you help? How do you help people like Devika? How do you encourage young entrepreneurs?
So at Grow London, we do build communities, but we have a cohort model where we support really fantastic innovators. So London high growth tech companies, we help them take them into international markets, help them to win international business. But we recognise that it's a holistic approach. It's not just about taking them to market, but actually making sure they can learn from their peers. So creating these sort of groups of high growth tech entrepreneurs in different sectors, helping them learn from each other, helping them access finance, access the markets and access talent. And we do that for Indian companies as well, who are wanting to access our ecosystem and plug into London, help them grow here as well.
So I'm going to talk about that second aspect of it in just a couple of moments. But from your experience, when you're talking to entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs doing it for the first time, What is the most challenging area where you think they need help and guidance? Is it on getting the business model correct, getting the idea correct, getting access to funding,
Yeah,
all
so
of the above?
interesting question. They have to get the fundamentals right. So yes, with a business plan, it has to be quite robust. We can connect them in to investors, but we keep saying to the young entrepreneurs, you have to do your homework. So work out who you want to speak to, which are the investors that are investing in your sector at your stage of growth. Work out who you want to be connected to, rather than going to a networking event and just hoping that serendipity works its magic. So putting the onus back on them a little bit, and also getting them, especially the British entrepreneurs, to be a little bit bolder, more confident when they're actually going out pitching for finance. So access to
You
capital.
mean they're not?
Not always. Not always. I
Tend
think
to be more laid back than the
getting
American.
better. They're getting better. Access to capital is one of the biggest challenges. Access to markets. They essentially want people to buy their products and services, whether that's here in London, whether that's in Mumbai, or whether that's in Shanghai, wherever it is around the world. They need doors opening for them. They need to be speaking to the right people.
Would you say, Devika, one of the easier things is to actually get that idea? A lot of people think entrepreneurship is about having the right idea. You've got a good idea, it means I'm going to be really successful. But actually, that's necessary but not sufficient.
Yeah, I think it's 1/8 of the whole piece of bringing together an idea to market, scaling it, and making it a really successful, compelling proposition. I would say a huge part of it is the people behind it that are pushing that product forward. I've always said that there can be a really bad product, but if you've got an amazing team that's selling that product really well, that will get into the faces of people that want to buy it better than a great product without the best people putting it forward. And that's unfortunate, but obviously it's all about how you sell something nowadays, and social media plays a huge part in that. It's also about doing your homework and understanding which competitors are out there in the market and how you're competing against those competitors in order to get an adequate market share for then your investors to look at you and say, I want to invest in you because I know that you can get an incredible total addressable market and I can get a good return on my investment. And I think also getting really supportive investors behind you on the cap table, if you do want to go down the fundraising route, is one of the most important things you can ever do. Mentors and advisors and board members, because they're going to be the secret sauce to opening up doors, to supporting you in your growth targets and strategies. And then it's just that oomph of like a little sprinkle of confidence that founders need. Like Janet said, it's that if you don't have the confidence to go into rooms and the confidence in yourself to pitch to investors, but also to people to buy your products, you won't sell. And so making sure that you're fostering that confidence when you're out and about is really the recipe for success. And I didn't have that the first time round. I really struggled with it as a 26-year-old, super naive, which is why these communities are so important to tap into. But obviously, as you get older, I'm now 34, I don't have as little self-confidence, hopefully, but I know a lot more about my self-worth. So I go into conversations being able to hold myself a lot better and backing myself, which I think a lot of younger entrepreneurs maybe don't do as well. So it's a recipe for success. And it all comes together in a nice way to make a well-formed and nice tasting cake. Nice analogy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in your experience, when you're looking at younger entrepreneurs, do they use technology better? Do they use social media, for example, better? Digital marketing better than the older entrepreneurs do?
Do they use it better? Possibly. I think those that are being successful are being very, very focused as well. So it's all right being on social media and putting yourself out there. But at the end of the day, you've got to have product market fit. You've got to be building a product that's fit for your customers. So and also what I'm seeing more and more is very canny entrepreneurs, these young entrepreneurs who see where the investment's going. It's going into climate tech. It's going into AI. It's going into a little bit health tech, but that's a bit of a longer term play. But what we're seeing is, if they are actually able to tell a story like Devika can brilliantly, if you can tell that story about how you're genuinely solving a societal issue, like it's real impact-led, we're seeing a lot more impact-led businesses, and that's that younger generation of entrepreneurs. They want to change the world.
Does it help to be in an area which is a good area or an attractive area or an area where that venture capital is going? Is that something you keep in mind, or is it about changing the world?
That's a really good point. So I've always been very mission driven, very purpose driven. I can only sell something or get behind something that I literally wake up in the morning and it's in the front of my brain every second and I can't stop thinking about it, or something that I've personally experienced, or something that I've loved ones experienced. That for me has always been my driving force in this world. So I would never be able to just follow a trend, which other entrepreneurs do really well. I know serial entrepreneurs who basically, they see a trend, they know that's where investment's going, they come up with an idea and they're successful and they've just got this secret sauce for success. And that does exist. I'm just not that type of entrepreneur. But for me, it's all about having a problem that is going to be so impactful if I solve it with technology that it can scale and solve real life issues on a global scale. And that's what makes me have that purpose. And it isn't necessarily where the money is. I mean, women's health, like I said, it doesn't attract the most amount of investment, unfortunately. Even though women make up half the population, it definitely should attract the most investment. Research in women's health attracts the least amount of investment. Again, it's a huge problem and we need to start looking into it more. But it is getting better. But for me, if I can kind of solve some of these problems and solve them well, then I'm not just trying to make a VC rich, I'm actually solving a real problem that exists, and that's what's important.
So one of the things I'm curious about, here you are, you're Forbes 30 under 30, weren't you? And then you...
Back when I was 30, yeah. About 29.
Yeah, okay. And back when you were 29, you then went on to sell your company at the time when a lot of young people said, I want to keep it on, I want to build it, and I want to do X, Y, Z. You still took that decision. Why was that?
Why did I sell my shares?
Why did you sell?
I decided that the company wanted to do an M&A strategy. So they wanted to basically do a franchise model of the care company that I'd built. So I'd built a care agency. The care agency that I built was empowered by the technology that I had built, which was essentially the Uber for care. The reason why I started that company, again, was very mission-driven. I cared for my grandma for 12 years when she had dementia. And as a young carer, I witnessed all the ravages of poor quality care, poor access to healthcare services, the fact that carers are underqualified, underpaid, and we expect them to do one of the hardest jobs known on this planet and look after the people that we love the most. So I was very mission-driven in that business, and I believed that technology was going to solve the problem and help us to scale a care agency. The board and our shareholders decided that they wanted to do a franchise model and an M&A strategy, and that's absolutely fine. It just didn't align with what my vision and my purpose was. So I chose to sell my shares back to the business and go my merry way. But for me, that was a success.
No, it was. I mean, and I think the reason I asked you that question is because for a lot of young people, when you become the entrepreneur and you become the founder of a company, sometimes the skills that are required for getting the idea and setting it up and doing the early startup are not the same skill sets as are required when you're scaling it or when you're trying to sell it or when you're trying to do day-to-day management.
Yes.
And is that one of the common mistakes that young people make, that you should always know what you're good at and what you're not good at, or what you're interested in and what you're not interested in? Does that matter?
We are seeing a shift, I think, here in the UK now as well, because we are getting those leadership skills that we've seen in other parts of the world, because we're having serial entrepreneurs who are learning from their first business. And so I think, yeah, it is a different skill set. Some entrepreneurs decide to continue on, and others do recognise that they want to bring someone else in to take it to the next level. It just depends on the business.
Right. I would come now to the India part, because a lot of what you're doing to encourage people, you're doing great community work out here. But increasingly, a lot of business is going to be global. A lot of entrepreneurs are going to start looking global. A lot of bridges are going to be built between, let's say, Britain and India, or Britain, India and the UAE, or throw the America in. Is that part of your mandate, and how do you see that rolling out?
Yeah, I see the world getting smaller, really. And because we have a team in India, in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and they're actively now covering the Middle East as well, because what we're seeing is a lot of Indian companies, a lot of the entrepreneurs, they've got a really strong ambition to expand into London and the UK, but they also want to be in Dubai, that are, you know, quite proactively attracting them there. So there's this golden triangle. So in October each year, we take entrepreneurs that we're working with in India together with entrepreneurs from London, and we actually connect them in Dubai. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think, you know, we don't always have to. London's a fabulous convener. We've just had London Tech Week a couple of weeks ago, where we had about 230 entrepreneurs from India come here, which was brilliant. So we do like to think that we can convene the world here in London. But if it means going out to Singapore, Dubai, and making those connections there, then I think we need to be open to that. You know, open to where the trends are going and how we can keep building communities across different parts of the world, different time zones.
But potentially, do you still believe that London is one of the best places for Indian entrepreneurs wanting to target a global market? This is one of the places they should be considering.
Absolutely, and the data shows it, to be honest with you. I think we're seeing like 971 Indian companies now in the UK. It goes up and up each year. You know, 18,000 jobs, 118,000 jobs that they've created here. And I think because of the, you know, the diaspora that's here, it just feels very familiar for Indian businesses here. The regulations are the same, the legal system's the same. You know, the schooling, a lot of Indian entrepreneurs like to send, either they've studied here or they like to send their own children here. So there's lots of reasons. And also, you can get lots and lots of business done in one day. You know, you can actually see the regulators, the financiers, the creatives. And the people, Indian entrepreneurs tell me that they really like that. They can get a lot done in one day. Great time zone as well. So, yeah, I mean, India is by far the largest inward investor last year, certainly for the work we do. And within the UK, I think it's the second largest investor. So we're really excited about that relationship. And lots of unicorns coming out of India, of course. So
yeah, that's exciting.
Momentum.
That's exciting. So Devika, what's next for you? Are you going to keep on building and scaling this up till you become one of those unicorns that was being spoken about?
I mean, hopefully. We do need more female founders becoming unicorns. And definitely we need our first ever women's health unicorn to come out. We're yet to have one. And I think once we have one, we'll start to see a real trend in increasing investment into women's health companies and female founders. We just need to get that one to give us that kick, to give us that, to show that women can be amazing business leaders, and women's health is an incredibly important proposition to invest in. So yeah, I'm going to continue to scale and build Arla, build the community, continue to stamp out the taboos that exist around women's mental health and create spaces for women to come together and get the help and support they need to really drive gender equality throughout our society, because I think that is what really drives me every day to get up in the morning.
All right, fantastic. We are flat out of time, but thank you so much for joining us. All the best for all your efforts to try and drive the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and all the best with your ventures.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Janet.